This is round 16 in the Sunday morning prelims at the 2019 NAQT High School National Championship Tournament. This game pits the 96 card against the 143 card. From Georgia, we have Walton, and from Massachusetts, we have Belmont. Both teams are ready to go. Absolute best of luck to both teams. Here's toss-up 1. The 1967 collapse of the Silver River Bridge in this state city of Point Pleasant was linked in local folklore to a creature called the Mothman. It's not Michigan, but a 2014 chemical spill in the state's Elk River left over 300,000 residents without drinking water. This state's quarter depicts its New River Gorge Bridge. For 10 points, name this Appalachian state that broke away from its parent. And, yes?
West Virginia.
10. Bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about Laplace's equation. Laplace's equation is a second-order partial example of this type of equation since it relates a function to its derivatives.
Differential equation?
Yes. Laplace's equation involves the Laplace operator, which is equivalent to this operation on a function's gradient. This vector calculus operation is symbolized del dot and is contrasted with the curl.
Divergence?
The solution to Laplace's equation in cylindrical coordinates contains these functions named for a German mathematician. Those of the first kind are symbolized J.
Bessel function? Bessel function?
30. Toss-up 2. Leon Stein wrote a 1962 book about this event during which law students Charles Kramer and Elias Cantor constructed an escape pathway using ladders. Isaac Harris, yes?
This is the Stanford prison experiment.
Nick 5. Isaac Harris and Max Planck were tried for manslaughter following this event that was worsened by their decision to discourage bathroom breaks by locking exit doors. The Ash Building was the site of, for 10 points, what 1911 disaster that killed 146 garment workers. Yes?
The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory.
10. Bonus. These beings were imprisoned alongside the Cyclopes in Tartarus, where they were guarded by the dragon Pompey. For 10 points each, name these fierce giants who each had 100 hands.
Hecatontars.
A story in the Iliad relates how Thetis brought this Hecaton care, who was known by different names to gods and men, rescued Zeus from being bound by the other Olympians.
Yeah,
Briareus.
Yes, the Hecatonchires were among the first children of this primordial personification of the earth.
Gaia.
That's 30. Toss-up 3. A key protein in this process is inhibited by a toxin from the fungal genus Amanita. A GC-rich hairpin loop forms during the final step of this process. The Pribnow box in prokaryotes and the Tata box in eukaryotes. Yes?
Transcription.
15 bonus. Some German historians claimed Helmuth von Moltke prevented the proper implementation of this plan. For 10 points each, identify this controversial plan for Germany's offensive against France in World War I. It was named for a German field marshal. I'm sorry?
Schlieffen.
Yes. The Schlieffen Plan called for German troops to invade France through this country where the Battle of Ypres was fought.
Belgium.
Yes. This French general produced and implemented a mobilization scheme known as Plan 17. He served as commander at the First Battle of the Marne and the Battle of Verdun.
Patan.
Joseph Joffre. So that's 20 points, toss-up 4. In one volume of this series, the painter Frenhofer makes a portrait of Mary of Egypt come to life. The unknown masterpiece is an entry in this series whose recurring characters include an aspiring poet named Lucien Chardon and a law student who declares war against Paris, Eugène de Rastignac. Lost Illusions and Father Goriot are entry. Yes?
The Human Comedy. 10.
Bonus. This archipelago's island of Suderoy is the site of an annual slaughter of pilot whales. For 10 points each, name this autonomous community whose capital is Torson. Answer? The Faroe Islands. The Faroe Islands are owned by this European country that also owns Greenland.
Denmark.
Yes, the Faroe Islands are one of the few countries in the world to have 0 locations of this company. The Economist uses a signature product of this company to compare purchasing power.
McDonald's.
That's 20. Toss-up 5. This composer included 4 New Year's greetings and a set of 44 duos for 2 violins. He collected 153 progressively more difficult etudes for piano in his work Microcosmos. In an opera by this composer, the set darkens with the discovery of a lake of tears, which causes Judith to demand the location's 7th and final door be unlocked. For 10 points, name this Hungarian composer of Bluebeard's Castle. Yes? 10. Bonus. A friend of this show's protagonist buys a pair of meditating frogs to decorate a property rented from Bert Coyote. For 10 points each, a company named Nasty... I'm sorry? A company named Nasty Gal sells vintage clothing on what Netflix series that starred Britt Robertson as the title entrepreneur?
It's like Girl Boss?
Melanie Linsky, who played Gail on Girl Boss, appeared as Charlie Harper's obsessive neighbor Rose on this sitcom created by Chuck Lorre.
2.5 Men.
This performer who played Lionel on Girl Boss uses the phrase sachet away when dismissing competitors on Drag Race.
RuPaul.
30. Toss-up 6. Legendre polynomials have this property since the inner product of 2 of them is proportional to a Kronecker delta function. Vectors must be linearly independent if they mutually have this property. Yes?
Orthogonal.
15, bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about economic growth models. Growth is often stated in terms of this measure of an economy's performance, the sum of all value-added output within a country in a given time period.
GDP.
The Solau-Swan model predicts that short-term growth occurs through the accumulation of this factor of production denoted K.
Capital stuff.
Yeah.
Capital. Yeah.
Capital.
This adjective describes growth models developed in the 1980s and 90s that explain growth as a result of variables contained within the model as opposed to external forces.
Internal.
Intrinsic. No.
Huh?
I don't know.
Intrinsic.
Answer?
Yeah, intrinsic.
Intrinsic.
No, it's endogenous. 20 points, toss-up 7. After this election, a PR firm bragged about the lowered voter turnout caused by 1,200 hidden cameras it installed at polling places. In this election, the Resilience Party joined several others in the Big Tent Blue and White Alliance, which is led by Benny Gantz. In the wake of this election, Shas is again likely to join Likud in a coalition. Yes,
2019 Israel parliamentary election.
that's 10, bonus.
Nice
The homogeneity of these materials is measured by the dispersity index. For 10 points each, identify these large molecules composed of many individual subunits.
Polymers.
This material can be made synthetically from copolymerization of styrene and butadiene, or found naturally as repeated units of isoprene.
I don't know.
Cellulose, maybe.
Maybe
Answer?
Rubber.
Yes, this type of unbranched copolymer is formed from segments of uniform polymer chains, in contrast to alternating copolymers.
It wasn't.
Monomer? No, that's not right.
Answer?
No answer.
It's a block. 20 points, toss up 8. This region, which overlaps with several modern countries, was home to a Christian state that agreed to a treaty called the Bakht with the Rashidun Caliphate. This region, home to the kingdom of Makuria, was the birthplace of Taharqa, whose defeat by, yes?
Nubia?
15, bonus. This act allowed exemptions for both religious ceremonies and scientific research. For 10 points each, what 1919 act created to enforce the 18th Amendment was named for a Minnesota congressman.
This is the one that enforced prohibition, but I don't know his name.
Oh.
Answer?
No answer.
The Volstead Act.
Yeah.
The Volstead Act was largely written by Wayne Wheeler, a leader of this pro-temperance league founded by Howard Hyde Russell.
Prohibition.
Answer?
Prohibition Party.
It's the Anti-Saloon League. The Volstead Act was rendered moot when this state ratified the 21st Amendment in 1933, ending prohibition. Reed Smoot, an apostle in the Mormon Church, was a senator from this state.
Utah.
10. Toss up 9. One poem in this collection commands the addressee to toll the silver iterants. The addressee of another poem in this book is asked to gather the north flowers to complete the south before the speaker promises to answer and not wait upon being called by her pet name. A poem beginning, "How do I love thee?" Yes.
Love songs of the Portuguese.
Neg 5. A poem beginning, "How do I love thee? Let me count the ways," is part of, for 10 points, what collection of 44 love poems by Elizabeth Barrett Browning? Yes.
Sonnets from the Portuguese.
Sonnets from the Portuguese for
That's
10.
my bad.
For 10 points each, answer the following about London
No big
taxis. A nickname for licensed London taxis refers to them as cabs of this color.
No, they're not.
Answer?
Black.
Yes, London taxi drivers are required to pass this extensive test demonstrating familiarity with 320 standard runs through London, as well as hundreds of points of interest. Answer?
The London Compendium.
The knowledge. Oxford's Drew A.R. Ross showed that this seahorse-shaped brain structure is larger than normal in London taxi drivers, perhaps because it is responsible for spatial memory.
Hippocampus.
That's 20. Toss up 10. Herman J. Mankiewicz's inspiration for this word came from a horse that won the 1914 Kentucky Derby. Jerry Thompson, a reporter from News on the March, seeks the meaning of this word, which refers to an object burned in a furnace. The speaker of this word says it moments before dropping a snow globe. A child, yes.
Rosebud.
For 10, bonus.
Yeah.
For 10 points each, name these circuit elements. Variable versions of these circuit elements are called potentiometers. 4 of these devices are combined in a Wheatstone bridge.
Resistor.
Resistor.
These devices are represented in circuit diagrams with parallel lines because they often consist of parallel plates.
Yeah,
Capacitor.
One of these components made of a resistor in series and a capacitor in parallel with a load will have an attenuation frequency of 1 over RC. These elements come in low-pass and high-pass varieties.
Filters.
Sure.
I don't know.
Filters.
30. Toss up 11. An axicon is one of these devices with a conical surface. An approximation that assumes these devices are thin is often used in, yes,
Lens.
15, bonus.
Nice fuzz.
This villain repeatedly boasts of being humble. For 10 points each, name this man who schemes to marry Agnes while blackmailing her father, Mr. Wickfield.
Oh my God.
Answer?
No answer.
Uriah Heep.
Oh.
Mr. Micawber helps to expose Uriah Heep's crimes in this 1850 novel.
It's like Northanger Abbey.
David Copperfield. This author based David Copperfield on his own difficult childhood.
Dickens.
That's
Dickens.
10, and that's the half.
I can't.
At the half, the score is 170 for Walton, 190 for Belmont, and this is toss-up 12. A May 2019 Denver referendum on the legal status of these people was opposed by 83% of voters. The Palmer Court Project in Salt Lake City was widely considered a success in reducing the number of these people. The Care Not Cash initiative targeted 7,000 of these people in San Francisco, many of whom contributed to public defecation problems. Yes?
Homeless people?
10, bonus. In 2018, this man removed sex offender George Pell from the Council of Cardinal Advisors. For 10 points each, named this current Catholic Pope.
Francis?
A cardinal from this Latin American country, Francisco Errázuriz, resigned from the Council of Cardinal Advisors in 2018. Fernando Karadima was accused of sexual abuse of minors in this country.
Argentina, maybe? Argentina?
Chile. The film Spotlight dramatizes this New England newspaper's investigation of child sex abuse in the U.S.
The Boston
Globe.
Globe.
That's 20. Toss up 13. A story of this name in which Agatha comes to love her robot grandmother was adapted from a Twilight Zone script by Ray Bradbury. The speaker describes a male and a female in a slave auction in a poem of this title that also declares, "The armies of those I love engirth me, and I engirth them," and which contains a catalog of anatomical features. For 10 points, give this name of a poem about the human form by Walt Whitman. Yes?
I sing the body electric.
10, bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about Michaelis Menten kinetics. They describe these proteins that act as biological catalysts.
Enzyme.
Leonore Michaelis and Maud Menten derived them by studying the hydrolysis of this disaccharide made up of one glucose and one fructose molecule.
Sucrose.
This quantity is equal to the turnover number divided by the Michaelis constant. Diffusion-limited enzymes reach the upper limit of this value about 10 to the 9th.
Vmax.
Say that again?
Vmax.
No, it's efficiency. So 20 points, toss up 14. The Syrian branch of this group was led by the so-called Old Man of the Mountain. This group's founder, Hassan Isabah, coined the term Fedayeen to refer to them. This group is formally known as the Nizari Ismailis. Marco Polo embellished stories about this group and mistook their name as deriving from the word hashish. Yes?
Assassins?
10, bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about works titled for people named Emma. This author began, but never completed, a manuscript titled for a mysterious girl named Emma. Her completed novels include Jane Eyre.
Oh,
Austin?
Charlotte Bronte.
Yes, in Jane Austen's novel Emma, the title character is briefly involved with Frank Churchill before actually marrying this man who is 17 years her senior.
I should have watched that movie, man.
Answer?
No answer.
Mr. Knightley. This Wisconsin-based indie band released the debut album for Emma forever ago in
Bonnie
2000.
Bear.
That's 20.
Yeah.
Toss up 15. This hormone triggers contraction of myoepithelial basket cells. The supraprotic and paraventricular nuclei in the hypothalamus synthesize ADH and this hormone, which consists of 9 amino acids. With prolactin, this hormone triggers, yes,
Oxytocin?
10, bonus. Before independence, this country was the only French colony in Africa to vote for independence outside the French community in 1958. For 10 points each, name this West African country whose capital is Conakry.
Conakry. Sure, Cote d'Ivoire.
No, Guinea. This former labor leader was the first president of Guinea. He executed former diplomat Diallo Telly through a black diet of starvation and dehydration.
No answer.
Sekuro Touré. Diallo Telly had been the first Secretary General of the Organization of African Unity. Excuse me, guys, I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
I'm going to start that again for y'all, okay?
Okay.
Diallo Telly had been the first Secretary General of the Organization of African Unity, a body that was replaced in 2002 by this other body.
African Union. African Union.
10 points, toss up 16. This country exports a cassava syrup called cassareep, which is used in its national dish of pepper pot. This country is bisected by its largest river, the Essequibo. In 1895, Grover Cleveland appointed a commission to resolve a dispute over its still mostly impassable western border with Venezuela. English is the official language of, for 10 yes? Time, neg 5. English is the official language of, for 10 points. What small South American country whose capital is Georgetown? Yes?
Suriname.
No, Guyana. Guyana. Toss up 17. This politician proclaimed we must nationalize the arts in our country in a 2-day speech delivered in 1824. This man, who was appointed senator after the Burr conspiracy implicated John Adair, ran for president with Theodore Frelinghuysen, but lost to James K. Polk. The youngest member of the Great Triumvirate was, for 10 points, what man who became John Quincy Adams Secretary of State in a corrupt bargain? Yes?
Calhoun.
Neg 5? No, but no penalty.
Okay.
No penalty? Oh, yes.
Clay.
Clay for 10, yes. For 10 points each, answer the following about the fictional intelligence agent George Smiley. This author of The Night Manager created Smiley. He based the character on his own experiences as a former employee of MI5 and MI6. Answer.
Fleming.
John le Carré. Smiley's first clash with his nemesis, the Soviet spy master Karla, is depicted in this 1974 novel, whose title was inspired by a British nursery rhyme.
London Bridge is falling down. Oh yeah, let's go. London Bridge.
Answer.
London Bridge.
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Le Carré created Smiley as a deliberate counter to this fictional British spy created by Ian Fleming, whose depiction he felt was unacceptably inaccurate.
James Bond.
Bond.
That's 10. Toss-up 18. This is the only element to form a simple cubic crystal structure. The Soviet Lunokhod rovers used it as a heat source on the moon. This element, combined with beryllium, forms a neutron initiator for nuclear weapons, since this element rapidly alpha decays directly into lead. In 2006, yes,
Uranium.
Nick 5. Ex-KGB agent Alexander Litvinenko was fatally poisoned by, for 10 points, what element named after the home country of Marie Curie? Yes.
Polonium.
Polonium for 10. China claims that this territory includes the mountainous region of Aksai Chin, a claim disputed by India. For 10 points each, name the semi-autonomous territory in northwestern China that is the home to many of the Muslim Uyghur community.
Xinjiang.
South of Xinjiang is this other autonomous region. China controversially annexed its capital of Lhasa in 1951.
Tibet.
Yes. On Xinjiang's border with Pakistan is K2, a notoriously treacherous peak in this high-altitude mountain range. It lies south of the Pamirs and east of the Hindu Kush.
Karakum or something.
Defer to Vern.
Karakum.
That's 30. Toss-up 19. A 2017 rewrite of this sport's rules folded the dismissal offense of handled the ball into the category of obstructing the field. In a 2018 controversy in the sport, Cameron Bancroft was suspended for planning to tamper with a ball using sandpaper, and David Warner was banned from the leadership of Australia's national team. Australia and England compete for the Ashes. And, yes.
Cricket.
10. Bonus. Pulsars are rotating examples of these stars. For 10 points each, name these very dense, degenerate stars largely composed of uncharged particles.
Neutron stars.
Glitches in neutron stars are thought to be caused by these events in which a neutron star's crust has an abrupt change in the distribution of its
Starquake.
mass.
Starquake.
Tolman, Volkov, and this scientist name an upper limit on the neutron star mass. This American said that he thought of the Bhagavad Gita upon watching the Trinity nuclear
Oppenheimer.
test.
Yeah. Oppenheimer.
30. Toss up 20. This sculptor created an equestrian statue of Vercingetorix for the town of Clermont-Ferrand. The resistance of a 104-day siege in the Franco-Prussian... Yes.
Rodin.
Nick 5. In the Franco-Prussian War is commemorated by this man's monumental Lion of Belfort. This man placed broken shackles and chains at the feet of his design for a copper statue installed on Bedloe's Island in New York Harbor. For 10 points, name this French sculptor of the Statue of Liberty. Yes.
Eiffel.
No, Bartholdi, Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. Toss up 21. During the Jahiliyyah period, the structure may have housed 360 idols of the god Hubal. Each year, the structure is draped with a new embroidered... Yes.
Kaaba.
15. Bonus. In 2017, this man threatened to revoke the rights to a Detroit production of his play Oleana unless the company stopped holding post-show discussions. For 10 points each, name this American playwright who made similar demands regarding productions of his play Race. Answer?
Defer.
Williams.
David Mamet. Mamet also refused to allow pronoun changes for a 2017 all-women production of this play about ruthless real estate agents.
Red.
Defer.
Hairspray.
Glengarry Glen Ross. Mamet's play Speed the Plow was about executives in this entertainment industry, for which Mamet created a 1981 adaptation of the novel The Postman Always Rings Twice.
Just pass.
Pass.
Films or movies, nothing on the bonus, toss up 22. The speaker of a Claude McKay poem sees the might and granite wonders of this place beneath the touch of time's unerring hand. A poem that asks this place, why are your libraries full of tears, begins by telling it, I've given you all, and now I'm nothing. A Langston Hughes poem opens with the line, I too sing this, yes.
America.
10. Bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about the early origins of video games. Steve Russell co-created this sci-fi-inspired ship combat game on a PDP-1 computer at MIT in 1962. It's sometimes classified as the first ever video game.
Space Invaders.
Space Invaders.
Space War. Among the first games to reach mainstream popularity was this 1972 Atari release inspired by table tennis.
Pong.
Pong.
Yes, in 1977, Atari released its cartridge-based video computer system, a home console commonly known by this 4-digit number.
This 2000, maybe.
Sure, 2000.
2600, 10 points, toss up 23. The ruin and conquest of this island was traced in a work by St. Gildas, which includes the first mention of the Battle of Badon. Tacitus analyzed this island in a text named for Agricola, one of its... Yes?
England.
Neg 5, one of its governors. The martyrdom of St. Alban... The martyrdom of St. Alban on this island was described in an ecclesiastical history of it written by the Venerable Bede. For 10 points, name this island whose history gave rise to the legend of King Arthur. Yes?
Great Britain.
I cannot take England. I'm sorry. 10 points. For 10 points each, name these techniques used by painters to create non-flat images. Leon Battista Alberti championed images with the linear form of this trait that can often be created by picking a vanishing point in the background.
Perspective.
This sort of distortion makes an image look correct only when viewed from a specific non-frontal angle. An extreme example affects the skull in Hans Holbein's The Ambassadors.
Like one way to kneel.
Like
but I don't-
stretching it out.
Answer?
Stretching.
I can't take that. It's anamorphic, anamorphism.
Wow.
This French term describes works that trick the viewer into seeing depth where there is none, such as by depicting a hollow arch from below.
Magic eye.
Answer?
No way.
It's not magic eye, no. It's trompe l'oeil. And that's the game. 10 points on the bonus. Final score is Walton 270, Belmont 335. Excellent game, both sides. Congratulations to both teams.